dehydration and the brain. So, does dehydration affect brain function? That's the first question. Anybody want to take that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
In so many ways, not only whether you're feeling like brain fog, but your interaction is hampered if you're not hydrated.
And is there some reason specific that you happen to know that?
Well, I've noticed with dyslexia.
Okay, so let's just identify it then. You deal with a condition called dyslexia.
Correct.
Okay.
In watching the patterns, if I have fluid, there's less. It doesn't mean it's gone away, but it can vary. Dyslexia can vary from little to nothing to not being able to write your name. So there's differences even within the same person. And then with those differences, okay, if I'm doing this, okay, what are my reactions and response? Okay, if I'm away from processed sugar, this is the response. It's less of a problem. I can think clearer. I can respond better. If I have water, I can think clearer. I can respond better. Does that mean it's 100% gone? No, I was just having trouble saying a word a moment ago. But that doesn't mean it's not here. So does water affect every aspect of life? It does affect it. And with that, water can improve the brain function. Take dementia. There was a title of a medical article come in while we were doing Alzheimer's care. You're not demented, you're dehydrated. Just the fact of drinking water will help you remember.
Thank you for that, Irene. And so from a clinical standpoint, doctor, what would you have to say about dehydration in the brain and as it relates to dyslexia or mental confusion and such?
Well, that's very interesting. I didn't know that specific, issue with dyslexia before, but knowing that how the body works, that makes sense, because water is so important for the brain function. Did you know that if you're chronically dehydrated for long periods of time, your brain cells will actually start shrinking, and if you have a shrunk brain cell, I don't know if that's a word, but then it's not going to function as well. And not only that, but we were just discussing earlier how the Krebs cycle, the electron transport chain, all these different, and I think that you're going to be seeing a little image of what I'm talking about. But these are the chemical processes that our body goes through in order to create any energy. And each organ, each function, each motion that we do needs energy. And water is part of that entire cycle from the beginning to the end. And so without water, our body just cannot create the energy that we need to function.
So I'm going to tell a story on my wife. We've been massage therapists for about 4 years, just under 4 years. And Irene, did people say anything about you being a massage therapist prior to 4 years ago?
Yes.
And the reason that you didn't become a massage therapist, or at least one of the reasons that you didn't become a massage therapist prior to 4 years ago, what would that be? One of them?
Dyslexia.
Dyslexia.
Yeah. Dyslexia anatomy.
Well, there you go, right? But even with that, When we decided to go down this path, you at that point in your life were working with making sure that you were following what we call the 8 laws of health. Is that correct?
Correct.
And one of those 8 laws is making sure you've got hydration and water and making sure you've got that in your body. Do you believe that at some level, maybe significant, maybe minor, I don't know, you can address that accordingly, but do you believe that the proper water balance helped you to get both through school and your MBLEX test?
It definitely had a major effect.
Okay. So that's basically what we're looking at there is dehydration in the brain, specifically as it relates to dyslexia. But as we've talked about through the video, it doesn't have to be just dyslexia. There's other, like you brought up Alzheimer's, you brought up mental confusion, and such like that. The point that I think is the takeaway from this video is if we want the best possible ability to use our brain as possible, then we ought to stay hydrated. Is there any other thought on that either of you would like to bring forward? Okay, so that's our information on dehydration and the brain. Next up, we're going to talk somewhat about a similar topic, and that's we actually did talk about a little bit here. It's called brain fog. So we're going to look at that in our next video, but that's what we have for dehydration and the brain.